The sentencing phase of Mark Godot's trial begins tomorrow here in Phoenix, and he could face the death penalty. Yesterday, a jury found the 47-year-old former construction worker guilty of being the baseline killer. He is convicted of murdering 9 people between the summers of 2005 and 2006.
So we are asking you, what do you remember from this time when the baseline killer was terrorizing the valley? How did it impact your everyday life, and how did you feel when the guilty verdicts came in?
And our guest today is a man very close to this case, former Phoenix Police Sergeant Andy Hill. Thanks for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Nice to be with two beautiful women. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
You were waiting, like so many people, for these verdicts to come down, 72 in all. Were you surprised by the guilty verdict?
No, I wasn't surprised at all, but I got to tell you, the first thought I had, and I think anybody that was involved with the case remembers it, was for those victims and their families. I mean, it was just such an emotional thing, even though it kind of was expected from my point of view.
And of course, he terrorized the entire valley, but this particular story made national headlines, and it kind of overlapped the serial shooters. So again, there was just so much scariness at that time.
And the anxiety that people felt. Tomorrow, the sentencing phase will begin. The death penalty or perhaps life in prison. What do you think the judge will decide and the jurors?
Well, it'll be up to the jurors, and what will be presented are what they call aggravating and mitigating circumstances, and what they will have to decide is there a past history, is there enough to say that there was such aggravation that he should receive the death penalty, and fortunately we have a great system, a great jury system, and they'll make that decision. So it's something that I know to some degree will bring closure to the community, but either way it goes, it's not going to help all those families to some extent, because they still have to live with what happened. So I often like to say that, you know, there's the forgotten, and those are the victims and families of those people that were victimized, and we just have to try to remember them and be thankful that that's a chapter that's closing.
Yeah, hopefully there is some closure for them. But let's get to what you're saying online. Kimmery Torres says, I was working at Phoenix College, and I remember tons of students canceled their evening classes, and our enrollment went down because of fear. I'm glad he was found guilty.
Wanda Street on Facebook writes, I had started a job and told them I would not work an evening shift. And she's one of our viewers who was actually was a bus rider at the time, and she said that she would be sitting at the bus stop, which was right across the street from where he lived. It was very terrorizing for her.
Yeah, I had hundreds of emails, calls, things, people trying to get information. When should they work? When shouldn't they? Saying that they were afraid. I mean, it was a difficult time. I mean, there was so much going on with both of those cases. And I got to tell you, kudos to the Phoenix Police Department, the Maricopa County Attorney's Office, all the civilian employees in the Phoenix lab, the DPS lab that helped. ATF did a lot of help. I mean, there were just hundreds of people involved in that case and thousands of man-hours. And they were able to show that a community like ours could solve 2 serial killer cases that were going on at the same time in a relatively short period of time. Obviously, we'd like to have been sooner so they would have saved more victims, but it was tough.
Did it change your life?
Oh, absolutely. My life was personally affected, as was many of those. The investigators, the officers working the street, the endless hours, affected everybody's life, up to the police chief and the mayor.
What was it like being out there investigating, seeing these crime scenes?
You know, it was very difficult. I mean, you get to the point, because I was actually made a member of both task forces, where you can see in everybody's face when something happens, you know, oh no, here we go, another one. And then the anticipation, hoping that there wouldn't be another one, but it still happened. So it was a very difficult time.
All right, well, we appreciate you giving us your intake on that, and we will continue to ask you to chime in on the buzz as we move on. But we want to get to some other stories making a buzz this afternoon.